And we are live. Guess what, everybody? It's Thursday night, and that means it is time. It is the place. You are in the right channel. You are in the right space. For Wait, Did I Roll a Wild? Your Marvel Crisis Protocol vlog. I am here in this chair with a microphone in my hand. My name's Tim. I'll be your host this evening. In addition to myself, one of my favorite people in the world, and we missed him heavily last week, R.I.P. Dr. D, who's come back from the dead without fear to be here with us this evening. Dr. D, how are you?
I'm great, and the fact that I can make a reference to one of the best Daredevil storylines ever in Born Again,
Mm-hmm.
I'm back, and I'm back and better than ever, baby.
For Christmas this year, Dr. D is here.
I'll be under your tree, all wrapped up.
Batteries,
I'm gonna look
batteries
cute.
included.
I'm gonna be cute, little cutie. You know what, Tim?
What's
You're one
that?
of my favorite people. I want
Ah,
you to know that.
nuts. Thanks, man.
You never give me the opportunity to tell you, but I want you to know that that is definitely the case.
Yeah, I do always try to cut you off. I kind of figured maybe you were giving up on it, but then you got me from behind. You got me,
Listen,
sis, diagonally.
I am way too much of a big old doofus to know when to give up, so
That's actually what
I'm
the
here.
D in Dr. D stands for, is Dr. Doofus.
Dr. Doofus.
You know what? We might have to change the name of the dojo again already. But uh, the things we're going to be talking about tonight, Dr. D and I have both had incredibly different experiences with the Hellfire Club affiliation. I played it this past Monday on last Tuesday on Oh Yeah, the Power Phase. He's also been getting a lot of reps in it as well, as Emma Frost is one of his favorite characters. We're also going to be talking about the MODOK tactics cards, which thankfully came out today, so we have at least some new revealy stuff to talk about. In addition to those things, we're also going to be introducing a brand new segment called Dr. D's Despot Dojo, where we will be going over some of the lists and things like that that we are currently running and trying to tinker with, and maybe get some feedback from you guys out there as we try to finagle our way into being better at this game that at least I am very poor at. But in addition to all those things, I want to make a couple quick announcements here, some house cleaning stuff, housekeeping stuff, not house cleaning stuff, here at the beginning of the show. Next weekend, April 15th, we have our art store event, standard challenger event in Syracuse, New York. Signups have actually increased for that. We're probably going to be looking at like 20 people, which would be dope from the people that I know that have not signed up yet but are. So very excited for that. Make sure we only have a couple more slots after that 20th person. So if you were thinking about doing that, go over to the Longshanks right now and sign up for it. If you search for MCP events, it will be the one that's called The Art Store for April 15th in Syracuse, New York. In addition to that, we'll also be running a qualifier at Bearded Dragon Games on May 20th. That one is starting to actually go a little bit better now as well, getting some new signups for that. In addition to those, tickets are now available for the Salt City GT. That is the weekend of July 7th in Syracuse, New York. We are going to be handling the MCP portion. It's kind of a big thing for us, so we want to make sure that it is an awesome event. So we are starting with a 2-day standard challenger event that will hopefully kind of build up the upstate New York MCP scene, as well as complement the other events that are happening all over in the Northeast, including Ironweld, which will be Memorial Day weekend, and Everwinter in December. So make sure to pay attention to all the feeds there. We really want to see some more signups for both the April 15th event at the art store, as well as getting your tickets now and making sure you get your room in the hotel block for the Salt City GT. Once again, weekend of July 7th. All right. One more quick thing. Over at beardeddragongames.online, there is a item up currently for Shatterpoint core sets. Anthony has been able to confirm with his distributor that he's going to be getting at least 16 of the Hollow Alt Art cards and all that stuff, all the store support kit. He's getting 16. So he's effectively first come, first serve, but he wants to make sure that if you get one of those, that you are aware and definitely know for a fact that you will be getting those additional bonus pre-ordery things. So head over to there, beardeddragongames.online, pre-order your Shatterpoint core set, get your additional goodies, and use code PCN Shatterpoint for 15% off your pre-order.
I just ordered mine yesterday.
Did you from beardeddragongames.online? With code PC.
Sure.
You can lie to me. Like, that's actually completely fine.
I definitely got it from Bearded Dragon Games, and I used the code. I don't know if you know the code or not. It's called PCN. Or I'm sorry, MEPC10, and I got however much you just said at checkout.
Yeah, PCN Shatterpoint is the code for the 15% off there. But let's get right into it, Dr. D. We haven't talked to you since Adepticon. Tell us a little bit about your experience there, what you played in, whether it was MCP or maybe other events or systems, and what your overall experience was. And was that your first Adepticon?
That actually was my first Adepticon. I've been to a lot of cons. I've been to Gen Con. I've been to a bunch. I'm not gonna sit here and list them off or whatever, but I will actually say
sit here and list them off.
Okay. Back when I was 3 years old, I went to a convention where they talked about bridge construction. Let me tell you about everything. No, so it was
consider me suspended.
Oh, got him. That's a bridge joke, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, like and comment on the bottom to say what your favorite bridge joke is. Anyway, so the Adepticon was easily probably my favorite con of all time,
as it should be.
Previously, it was PAX Unplugged, just because I thought that I still like Gen Con, but I think Gen Con direction was not something that I was super 100% behind, because it was starting to become less like board game and miniatures related, and like video games and stuff started coming up, which there's nothing wrong with, but I wasn't like exactly what I was after. Adepticon is miniatures gaming at its finest. It's a convention. And I can truly say that if you've been to something like an LVO or an ACO, while those are fun and enjoyable, I definitely believe that an Adepticon is more of a convention as opposed to just a really big tournament.
Yeah, no, and that's the way I often described it. It's a spectacle, right? It's not just a tournament. It is a spectacle. It is an amusement park of miniatures and board games.
It's a hootenanny.
It really is. Make sure to use code HOOTNANNY when you buy your tickets for Adepticon in 2024.
You get 15% off at checkout. So yeah, it was excellent. What did I do while I was there? That's a great question. So a bunch of my like Florida buddies, because I'm a Florida man at heart, as not a ton of people know, but I hung out with a bunch of my Florida friends. It was fantastic. I went to an Arena Rex goof off event, I guess. You can't really call it a tournament, but it was wonderful to meet a new community. They were all oh god, I won't even get into it. You got to talk to me in person to talk about some of the things we did. Some guy handed me as is the most healthy thing you can decide to do in your life. Someone just handed me a thing of what I believe was some kind of I think it was gin. I was like, all right, I'll drink this, and I just drank it. And I am not the biggest drinker in the world, but I was a little tipsy after that. I was like, man, it was like a shot glass. I didn't think this thing was gonna lay me down as hard as it did. So I was even louder than usual, which is, suffice to say, if people are listening to this podcast, they know how loud I can be because you can hear me in the background of the tournament when I'm not even on the screen. So I was even worse than I usually am. It was amazing. It was a blast.
I will say we ran into a number of things of people handing out all sorts of different liquids in mason jars at Adepticon, and it's one of my favorite things. I got yelled at the first year by Danny that she just said, you can't just drink things people hand you. And I was like, listen, this is what I was made for.
Let's just, it should be like a con tradition, right?
Yeah.
If you can't trust somebody at a con to hand you a liquid that may not poison you to death, I mean, is it even worth living? I mean, come on.
Right.
It's just a bunch of strange other nerds who just want to give you gifts. Nothing wrong with that.
So tell me really quickly about Arena Rex, because I've been hearing a lot about this game. We had a local that also went to Adepticon and picked up pretty much half of the line of Arena Rex.
Arena Rex is, as I'll try and describe it as best I can, it is I think it's 28 mil. It's either 28 mil or slightly bigger, but it's a quote-unquote fantasy Roman era Colosseum battle game. And there's a lot of super neat things about it. the one thing that I think might fascinate people in here is that it actually uses a system very similar to that's going to be used in Shatterpoint with the damage, like the flow chart
attack track.
Yeah, which it's super interesting. The game is surprisingly clever. The guy that actually made it, his name's Walker. He is very commonly at conventions and all that, and he's actually the one that like runs the event. So the prize support for these things is always insane because he's the guy that actually made the game, and him
That's
and
dope.
his co-conspirator, I think his name is Frank. I believe it's Frank. Is also they're both stellar guys. They got a great community, awesome game. Some of the real standouts are you can play a bunch of just wild animals, and you can have that be your I think they call it like your team, but there's like a bunch of different luduses, which I think is Roman for like it's like Roman for like school,
Okay.
for like your because there's like a bunch of different like gladiator factions. But you could definitely play with like all just a bunch of wild animals. There's like an Egyptian themed one, there's a Greek one, there's a couple Roman ones, there's one that's like what you would call like the Germanic tribes or like maybe the Gauls if you're kind of in depth in that kind of stuff. But it's a fantastic game. One of the gangs is the Medusa sisters, and the models are exquisite. Some of the coolest models I think I've ever seen. And you can run an entire gang of just the Gorgon sisters, and I was like, dang,
So
got yourself a game here.
yeah, so that part specifically is awesome. We have a close friend that just had a birthday the other day that's super into Gorgons and Medusas and that type of stuff. So that actually would be super dope.
Well, he should buy them and then paint them because they're beautiful.
Granted, the dude probably already has them because he has everything, but you never know.
Sure.
So
Good for him.
right. So in addition to all that, did you play any Affinity events or MCP events?
So I showed up for the Infinity event, and due to the way certain events were listed out, I was not able to attend it.
Oh,
And thanks for the setup. I went to the Adepticon MCP team event, so let me ask you, since you're here, right?
Mhm.
And I have you forcefully in a position where you can't say no. So what is the naming difference between the team tournament and then the one where you bring like the 3 people? Because I've also heard that called the team tournament.
yeah, that's a great question. I don't know.
So this is what I'm gonna say. This is the vernacular I want to use.
Mhm.
I'm gonna call the one thing we did at Adepticon. I want that to be the pal up.
I do think they did. I think last year they called it the team up. It was the team up event.
Okay, the team. So it's team event and then the team up event.
Yeah.
Okay, that's silly. We should definitely get better vernacular for that. We should
Yeah.
call it the Hoot Nanny.
Right. I think that's the 3v3, and that's normally I guess how I see it listed is team team up, which I think is very narrative right to the comics of having the team up, the buddy cop style thing.
Yep.
The 3v3 events are normally just called team event 3v3 or 3x3.
Okay.
But yeah, honestly,
But definitely
it's not an Adepticon, right? So it doesn't have a clever, cool name that tells you exactly what it is, like Team Up does.
right. So somebody smarter than me and gets paid way more than me, come fix that. All right. Snap, chop, chop, snap, snap. Get to it. Chop, chop. But me and my friend, his name is Saul. We played oh gosh, how many games? It was 5 games. So we played 5 wonderful games. I was playing my Convo, and he was playing his Asgard, which he painted up specifically for this. And because we're both geniuses, we didn't think about our team construction in the slightest. So it was mostly just him using really tall Asgardian stuff, and then I put in Doctor Strange and John Hydra. And we actually did really good. We got 3 wins,
Nice.
1 loss, and a draw.
Wow.
And
Actually, well done.
The only team we lost to was Criminal Syndicate, Kingpin, and it was on Scoundrels. So, here's the funny thing: my buddy Saul is very new at the game. He's played other than the 5 games he played there, he's probably played about 5 games before that, right? So he knows the rules, but he does not know anything that's considered like a meta. So this was his first exposure to, this is what people that aren't Dylan play. So I was like, okay. So he was exposed to Criminal Syndicate. He was exposed to Brotherhood twice. He was exposed to an Avengers, also Winter Guard, because there was the team up of where it was the Rocky versus Ivan Winter Guard.
Yes.
Captain America team up thing, which was the coolest thing. And I don't remember what the other one was, but after both of the Brotherhood games, he was like, "What happened? What did I just play against?" And I was like, "I don't know, man. I know. I get it." He was like, "Why can Magneto throw so many things?" I was like, "I know. I agree. Why can't he throw so many things?" So after every single Brotherhood game, we didn't have a board left. So I was like, "Welcome to MCP, buddy. Here's a size 4 terrain for Thor. Here you go."
Now, one of the things personally that I absolutely adore, and I talk about this a lot at Adepticon, is the team up event because people show up in costume. They have awesome display boards. Many of them are consumable in some way or shape or form, which is also usually super dope. Did you see any really cool, or did you play anyone that had like a really good group dynamic? I know Ron and I forget his partner's name. Were playing Crime Syndicate, and they were both like in mobster like full suits with like fake cigars and the whole nine.
That's the team we lost to.
Oh, was it?
Yep. So they're eternally on my vengeance list. So if I ever see them on the streets or in a Wendy's parking lot, I'm gonna get them.
I mean, those are the places you do kind of have to watch out for, very specifically Wendy's parking lots.
Especially me.
Right?
But obviously the Daddy Dormammu cult guys were amazing. I think you guys talked about that last episode, and I loved, as a big Rocky fan and as a big history buff, I absolutely adored the Captain America Winter Guard one. That was one of my. They give you a handout that was essentially like the fight card between Rocky and Ivan from from Rocky 4. I think the Ivan one was Rocky 4. Because Tommy Gunn was 5. Yeah, what a great movie. Anyway, so that was really good. And then after that, we didn't bump into any of the especially fancy team ups. It was the two Brotherhood people that we went up against were essentially they just brought their rosters. Yeah, they were there to goof off with the rest of us.
I'm really excited for future years of Adepticon to see kind of more people get into that aspect of it, because there wasn't a ton year 1. Year 2, I felt like there was actually a really good showing up to it. So I'm super excited to see stuff going forward. I'm in the talks with someone right now of if I can get some stable people to run the stream for the team event, doing like a Magneto and a Professor X team up. Especially now that he's been announced, he'll probably be out next year in time for Adepticon, so being able to do that would be doper magopers. But yeah, so any other huge takeaways before we move on to the kind of the meat of the episode from Adepticon that made you smile? We had a great time at Kuma's Corners getting the Adepticon burger. Yeah. Probably one of the funnest times we've ever had.
I was the doorman.
You were the doorman. We waited for about an hour and 45 minutes, and Dylan took it upon himself to make sure that door was open as soon as anyone came near it. It was his vigil. And
if you walked by, you might have thought it was one of those like grocery store electric doors, but nah, baby, it was me.
It was just him. It was just him.
Dylan. Powered by Dr. D.
Really, really impressed. Also, some other people waiting. I feel like.
Yeah, we made a lot of friends. It was a great time.
We did.
Yeah, I will say that there was not a single part of Adepticon that I did not think was awesome. I bumped into Ninjon randomly in the elevator. Like, me and my friends were going into the elevator, and I was just like, this guy is like, is this Ninjon? I was like, are you Ninjon? And he was like, yeah, man. And I was like, he was like, I'm drinking. I was like, all right, good for you, buddy.
No, you're Ninjon. Really cool.
Yeah, Ninjon. The Ninjon.
The John Ninjon himself.
John Ninjon from Trapped Under John.
Yeah.
The famous podcast. But yeah, it was really, really good. Got to play some board games and stuff like that. They have a great board game library, and there was a giant battle tech mech outside, which that was really cool.
Yeah, actually. And the board game library is actually pretty dope. I was talking to some other people that had gone this past weekend. We were playing a board game, and they were talking about their experience. They did a bunch of painting classes. He was like, yeah, I was in like painting classes for like 10 hours a day, and then we would hit up the board game library. And he was like, yeah, we ran into these dudes dressed up as pirates that were just like drinking full bottles of rum, and we played Nemesis with them for like 6 hours. It was awesome. Like,
that sounds incredible,
right?
But you want to hear the thing that was the biggest highlight for me, Tim?
Yeah,
I got to hang out with you guys.
Aw,
yeah, man.
Aw, shucks.
Anyway, now that we've got all these emotions out here, do you want to talk about MODOK?
Yeah.
Emotional man in all of all Marvel.
the most emotive man for certain. It's like his facial expressions are just like on a big screen directly in front of you. It's really nice to understand how someone like MODOK feels. But speaking of, we did get 2 cards this week. Today, even just in time for this particular show, which I super appreciate. Um, I did an episode of House Party Protocol with Will, where we kept up the AMG Facebook the entire time, just constantly refreshing it while we were doing the episode, just in case like cards or something came out, and it didn't. But shout out to Will from House Party Protocol. There should be an episode with me on it coming out soon, and it was an absolute blast. I love that dude. He's one of my favorite people to meet in the wild from the MCP community because he's there to have a great time. He also plays Wizards. Honestly, you two would probably be best friends. Both of you hate Brotherhood, love Wizards, and just won't quit them. Won't quit the Wizzin'. But
Is he, dude? Is he like he's like another aspect of me? He's like me from another universe.
he probably is actually.
Wait, does he have a goatee?
Somewhat, I think.
Oh no, am I the evil one? Oh no.
You do have darker hair, so you might be. He's from
I'm
Texas, you're from
evil!
Florida. So like, yeah. But let's get right into it. So our old Georgie boy Tarleton got some dope tactics cards this week. Dope tactics cards. The first one, everything about these, by the way, is perfect. Everything about them. The name, the art, the amount of words, and the overcomplication that both of these tactics cards are incredible. So I'm going to get these up on the screen so you can see them at home if you haven't gotten them already. How do I add this to the screen again? Oh, it's right here. There we are. Boom. Nope.
Hey, how about you do simpleton so you can tell me about that sweet tactic that you were thinking about?
I listen. I would love to do that exact thing. Where'd they go? Uh-oh.
Listen, this is why the professional and the casual is a 50-50 mix.
It really is. So and here's the deep cut. You know what I mean? Because everyone likes to know kind of the nuts and bolts of how things work. So before streaming, I always turn off a whole bunch of extra programs. I close the Blizzard launcher and the thing that turns my extra lights on and all that and all that junk. So you'll see them come up on now on the screen because I turned off Google Drive, and that is where I was hosting the picture that I wanted to have on screen. Now the Google Drive is back online. Now you can see it on the screen. So thank you, Google Drive. But let's get right into it. Simpleton, I'll do it myself. First off, perfect name. Perfect name. It's an unaffiliated active card. If you have fewer VPs than your opponent, George Tarleton, first of his name, may spend 2 power to play this card. Choose an allied character within range 3 of George Tarleton, first of his name, that is holding or contesting an objective token. If the chosen character was holding an objective token, George Tarleton is now holding that token. If the chosen character was contesting an objective token, place George Tarleton within range 1 of that objective token. Then, the chosen character is KO'd. You immediately score 1 victory point. This card does not allow a character to hold more tokens than the crisis specifies. I love it. I love it so much. 4-threat MODOK says, you know what? You're effing this up. I'm going to do it. You're going to die. And guess what? I teleported halfway across the field and I am now where you were. I love it. This is so perfect. I adore this card. I am going to use it as much as I possibly can. And I think there's actually some pretty great play for this, specifically in Shield. I think having Scientist Supreme MODOK in Shield, where you're normally playing from behind anyway, and then having a huge turn where you are probably KOing a Shield Grunt that is contesting something to teleport halfway across the field, if not more than halfway across the field, scoring an immediate victory point, just KOing a Grunt, because who cares? And then also potentially getting yourself to safety or within range to be able to start mind blasting people. I think it's awesome.
I think it's super neat. So I didn't mean to cut you off there. Do you have something else you want to say?
No, just I'm super into it. And I do think Shield is like a very obvious out of the gate choice for it.
Now you said 4-threat MODOK, but you can also use this with the 5-threat one
You can, but
because of the naming.
there's no
Super awesome.
there's no 5-threat MODOK for me anymore. It's
Oh, I'm
Sorcerer. It's Scientist Supreme or nothing.
he is life. So the thing that I love about this card, other than just how goofy it is that the way that that first paragraph is worded is you cannot force a mid-turn I scored 16 points end of game thing
Yes.
because you have to be lower than them and you can only get 1 point for it. So this can take you up to a maximum of 15 for the most part.
Right.
So I was like, excellent wording. Good protecting yourself on that one, AMG. Well done. You get a big gold star from me on that one. That was
John
awesome.
AMG really kind of knocked it out of the park on that one for a number of
He's
reasons.
a smart guy. He was at Adepticon.
He was. It was
Yeah,
actually it was super cool. He wouldn't talk to me, but like it was super cool that he was there.
We weren't allowed in the same like cubic area as him. Yeah,
Right.
I mean, come on, we're just lowly noobs compared to him.
But narratively, I love this. It tells a great story. It fits MODOK's theme so much. I love every single aspect of it.
And Dan Mora, excellent job on that art. That art is awesome.
Yeah. I love this. I mean, there is some maybe hyper competitive play that you could do with this too. Maybe on like Legacy Virus or something along those lines. Legacy Virus is still around, right? That's still a thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure is.
So I mean, popping bottles and stuff to be able to get that final Legacy Virus for only 2 power instead of paying 3 for it and teleporting across the board. It's awesome. I also really like some play with it for Criminal Syndicate itself, off of maybe some hand ninjas.
This honestly for me, other than so like if you just take out everything in this entire thing, other than just the movement aspect of it, this alone could be just an absolute godsend for the other MODOK, the 5-threat one, because this is gonna make it so that he may be able to just move, because that's the biggest weakness of the 5-threat one is you want to constantly be blasting, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So this might actually give you the opportunity to move and just double attack if that's what you really need him to do. I think that if there is a competitive edge to it, there's the fact that you can do that while also scoring. I think the grunt thing is like the best possible way of doing that. Because you could definitely do that turn 2, right? Like, oh yeah, hand ninjas or shield agents holding on to a thing, and that because he's all and because he's criminal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna have access to the hand ninjas. So you'd be like, hey, you over there, I'm gonna eat you. You doofus, I'm over here. Now I'm staying on the thing. Mind blast, you're dead. Boom.
Now I got more hammers. You know what I mean? And
exactly.
so yeah, I really like this. I think it's a great. It's not going to be the make all end all of MODOK, but it fits him really well. They've made a really good choice here, and I'm all about it. How about mind games though? Because there's a lot more text on that, like a lot more.
All right. I practiced my reading brain. Here we go. Cool. So mind games. It's an unaffiliated card. It is an active turn card. If George Tarleton, the first of his name, is within range 2 of an enemy character, he may spend 3 power to play this card. Choose an enemy character within range 2 of George Tarleton. Divide the experiment tokens into 2 piles. Each pile must contain at least 1 experiment token. Flip all experiment tokens to their MODOK side and present both piles to the opposing player. The opposing player must choose one of the 2 piles and reveals all tokens within it. For each zap, which looks like the damage symbol, is revealed, the chosen enemy character suffers a damage. For each sap, which looks like the power token that's revealed, the chosen enemy character will lose a power, and George Carlton will gain a power. If the reward is the little flag, or if the reward is revealed, the little flag, the opposing player gains a VP. If the reward is not revealed, you gain 2 VP. You want to talk about putting it all on red, baby. This is neat. I love it.
All day I've been thinking about how I'm going to use this. Like, how do I divide those piles up? What do I do there? Here's what I'm thinking. This is what I think is going to be my go-to move. And it's going to be adding 2 damage to one side. No, maybe I think I do 2 piles. One has 1, the other one has 4. The victory point, both saps, and a damage are on one side, and just the damage is on the other. I think.
And it's kind of it fits the name of the card, right? Because you're playing a mind game with them. Literally.
Correct.
That's interesting.
You're trying to win your first game of rock, paper, scissors against a new opponent is what this card is. It could be anything. It could be wild. You could get 2 victory points out of it, which is not a small
Amazing.
thing.
That's
right?
amazing.
It really is. But once again, yeah, you're putting it all on red.
But but the house odds. I mean, look at that. You get 2, but they get 1. What?
Right? Right?
Dude, house always wins. That's what they say.
Mhm.
That's what everybody says.
Everyone does say that.
So I think honestly, I don't think it's gonna belong in an LVO winning list, but I do think I'm gonna use it. I ain't gonna lie. I'm gonna use it. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah. I'm excited about it for stream. I'm excited about it for battle reports. I'm excited about it for like a team up event next year at Adepticon. And maybe if I don't go as Professor X, maybe I'll go as MODOK. Maybe I'll be able to get like a projection TV, right? And put that in front of my face and torso and just stick my arms and legs out from around the TV. I guess that would also work for Arnim Zola. But listen, the sky's the limit.
Well, you could just find, I'm sure there's like those Halloween outfits where it's like the guy, it looks like a lumberjack carrying a lumberjack on his back, but it's like 2 inflatable like legs.
Yeah.
You could probably do that.
That would actually, that would probably work.
Tiny little MODOK legs.
Hmm.
Anyway, great card. I love it. Absolutely love the thematicness of it. I think AMG knocked it out of the park on that one. I don't think we'll see it a whole lot. I think it's fearful symmetry food, but
whoa. Whenever you can use fearful symmetry, you play it.
I mean,
Like
you have
that's yeah, at least I'm contractually obligated to. But
by John Fearful.
but if correct. But if MODOK Scientist Supreme or even just MODOK is in my roster, these cards are in my roster as well. Hands down.
Character card, the year of the character cards. It is here.
Right? And he's a 4 threat, which means, he's gonna have a great year. A great year.
Hey, would you put him in your Hellfire list?
So, very specifically, yes. Yes, I would. So, my Hellfire list has been all about rerolls, and it might not stay a Hellfire list, but currently, and we're going to talk about this heavily in our new segment, Dr. D's Despot Dojo, but it might also end up being, and let us know in chat, and let us know in the comments, and all that good stuff. Should it be Dr. D's Doofus Dojo, Dr. D's Despot Dojo, Dr. D's Dishonorable Dojo? But either way, when Dr. D's on, we're going to have a dojo. And we're going to try to beat up our own lists and make them better. And normally make them probably a little bit crazier and a little bit more unhinged as well.
And if Dancer will probably have Iceman in it by the end of it.
Yeah. Happens to the best of us. Listen, my understanding is like, Iceman could still get delayed to like 2027. So like, I think that's just kind of what we hold out for.
So it's like in that movie, Little Nicky. Classic Adam Sandler's. Adam Sandler.
No, it was both of the Adam Sandlers were involved.
They said one of the brothers said that, and to get the maximum amount of torture, you got to give him a little bit of hope. And I think they did it. I think they managed to torture Dan just perfectly.
I mean, Dan got like his top 5 characters. Like he didn't get like his favorite character. He got the next 4 as well. So he got Kitty Pryde, Iceman, Bishop. And I'm pretty certain there was some more there as well.
All I gotta say is when I looked at all those
Nightcrawler
reviews, I had to say, man, Psylocke looks dope.
Dude, Psylocke does look dope. And sure in this past game on Monday on Oh Yeah, the Power Phase, I will continue to just scream her praises from the rooftops. She does so well for me. I love her. She is, in fact, so dope. And I thought Emma was the blowout of that box. Psylocke is awesome. An incredible card that literally just has everything that I need on it. It has a range 4 gainer, right, that has pursuit on it. Gets her up to the midline round 1 and an attack off. That is also Mystic, that she also has rerolls for. Yeah, she's really good. I love her a lot. She is a main line in my guess what, all rerolls. And I love the Tim Robinson meme that's been happening recently with the like, are you sure about that? Are you sure about that? So that's the name of the list is Are You Sure About That? Because you see that first roll where I roll 3 skulls and 5 blanks and you're like, great. And then Sentinel Prime, Psylocke, MODOK, Shuri, Heimdall, whoever's around, is throwing so many rerolls at it that eventually it'll actually just be 7 skulls that I roll.
Dang amazing. You should play Magic, man.
I love Magic,
Just do
actually.
Darkchild and just kill everybody in sight. You'll be unstoppable.
So that's the thing is there was a viewer that made me a list at one point that was called a list only Tim should play. That was all based around having characters that counted blanks or skulls as successes. So there's a bunch of martial artists in there. There was OG Daredevil and Scarlet Witch. That's looking real good.
Yeah, thanks, man.
But as far as the list for the dojo, I'm working on this reroll list. What are you working on for your dojo?
For me, I'm working on this Hellfire Club. I have to be the best Hellfire Club. I think that when Emma was released, they truly said, "Hey, I'm John AMG, and this is a public service for the public service announcement. Take all your favorite characters, ram them into a roster, and then walk up to some random homeless man, make him play MCP, and be like, these are some of my favorite characters. Do you want to play a model game?" And I was like, heck yeah. I want to play with random Bostonian homeless people. Let's do it. So I literally just took some of my favorite characters, threw them into a roster, tried to make something functional out of it. I've since adapted it a little bit, and I have been playing with stuff that I haven't really played with before since I've been playing Wizards for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And I've actually really been enjoying it. Every single time that I roll really badly and feel the acute sting of my entire life being failure, I realize that, you know what? It sure is fun playing this game, and I sure am happy to be here.
Well, and then you remember, you know what? I am playing Hellfire Club. I could have Sentinel Prime in here to make sure that when I roll poorly, I can re-roll them again, roll worse, and be more upset about it.
So it's funny that you bring that up because I think one of the biggest weaknesses of my roster is that there are no rerolls anywhere.
Okay.
I brought Shuri originally, and then I played on a D map, and then Shuri was nowhere near anyone else, so I didn't use the reroll. So buyer beware. When you buy Shuri, make sure she's within range 4 to use her abilities, or she'll have 10 power and stand on the back point and make you feel really bad about it. I'm a spooky ghost of past MCP games. Ooh.
I will say on Monday during the Power phase, I was running my Hellfire reroll list, right? And everyone out there in MCP land is probably going to hear me talk about this particular instance a lot because it really just portrays how I roll on Tuesday nights on the Power phase. So Angela moves up turn 1, Zyphoses into my Sentinel Prime.
Okay.
6 damage.
Cool.
I roll my 3 physical defense dice. I roll a skull, a blank, and a hit. I say, okay.
Those don't sound very useful.
I'm in an ambush token, though. So I'm going to convert one of those. Maybe I re-roll both and hope that at least one of them converts, and then I'll turn the other into a block with the cover. I spent 2 for my re-roll. I re-rolled the blank and the hit, and they both turned into skulls. And then I couldn't use the cover, and I took all of the damage. And then she threw a car at me, and I was like, what are the odds that I won't dodge any of this damage either? And it was 100%. I definitely did not dodge any of that damage. But sometimes it be like that, and that's why I just needed more rerolls.
True. Your rerolls were found wanting.
They were. So, and I had, it was hot or cold with that. I ended up squeaking out that game somehow. I don't think I deserved it. It looked very poor for a long time. And then that roster, or that squad that I brought, we were playing at 20 threat, was Sentinel Prime, Emma, Psylocke, Crimson Dynamo, and did I already say Sentinel Prime? Oh, Heimdall.
Oh, Heimdall, okay.
So Heimdall being able to slingshot people up, I know a lot of people just kind of like sit him center and just use him for rerolls and teleports, and that's also exactly what I did, except it was more on the teleport angle, being able to move Emma up to be able to get some Mind Blasts off or a defense straight. Sentinel Prime also being front and center, dead center in the middle, applying rerolls to anyone he could. Shuri could in fact do that cheaper. Um, but I do really love Sentinel Prime being able to pump up a builder for 8 energy dice, getting pretty much everything that he spent on it usually back, and constantly having that like 2 additional power at the end of his activation, so he has power to use for rerolls until his next activation. He's really good there. I like him a lot. This roster needs tweaking, and I don't know what other characters to fill in there, but Crimson Dynamo always does a ton of work. And when they have a hot roll and I don't on defense, but I can reroll everything I have and 2 of their attack dice, it really is like a constant like minor recalibration matrix, like on a stick, just always.
Yeah, it continues to amaze me how good Crimson Dynamo is.
Yeah.
He's just so good.
Yep. And his action economy is great
what
with his
characters did
thrusters.
you have in the background in your roster that you didn't use?
So that's the thing, is that roster's not fully fleshed out yet. So I'm trying to fill in those other 5. Those 5 I think are the mainstays.
Yeah.
And then filling in the rest to see, maybe I can in fact make another affiliation. Maybe it doesn't have to be Hellfire Club. Maybe I throw in Dormammu and make it Dark Dimension, because they love having that power and they are going to use it. So I think maybe one of those last 5 would in fact be Dormammu. I also like Shuri there. Maybe some other characters with rerolls, and then maybe some cheaper things and characters that count blanks as defensive successes. Martial Artist worked out very well there. Psylocke always overperforms, and maybe a bodyguard to help out Emma if she is in fact the one that's going to be leading the charge. So that's the thing. I really don't know what I should be putting in those last 5.
So you thinking Okoye for the bodyguard?
Potentially.
Because what other good bodyguards can you get cheap? There's Okoye.
Well, so
Scourge.
I do like MODOK in that group. So I do like the new Scientist Supreme MODOK, who will just have other people bodyguard for him, and other people pay for his own rerolls. So when Sentinel Prime ends up getting beat up a little bit, because people know they can take him down, so they do. But I rely on that because I need that power anyway. So when Sentinel Prime can spend 6 power and re-roll 6 of MODOK's dice between his own pattern analysis and MODOK's reactive reroll, I think that's great. Arnim Zola actually might fit very well in there too, and potentially Baron Strucker. If I did want to be able to go Hydra with it, I think there's potential there for it, especially if I'm using a couple of those characters.
So you prefer Strucker to Zemo?
I do prefer Strucker to Zemo because I love Incinerate.
Yeah, who can blame you?
But I do think Zemo is another great character to have in there.
I think Strucker offers range and probably like he offers the Incinerate, and I think Zemo might offer better like positional stuff because he has access to charge and also the medium move off of I think it's been called Steel Rush.
Yeah.
I just love the dice consistency from Zemo.
Yeah.
Obviously it's great.
I always forget to use Master Swordsman while targeted. I always assume I can use it later, and that is very incorrect.
For sure. Because he's 3 across? Or no, he has 4 Mystic, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, he's 3/3/4.
Because that's what you get when you become a Baron.
I will.
All Barons have higher Mystic defense.
It's so far, I believe that's accurate. Right? Mordo, Strucker, and Zemo all have a higher Mystic?
Pretty sure.
Dude, we need more Barons in this game. We need the Red Baron with some pizza powers.
Pizza powers?
Right?
Pizza Planet?
It's pizza time.
Was it Baron Zola? Yeah, Zola's the one.
Baron Zola. That's who we really need here.
Yeah.
Baron.
Classic.
Yeah, Baron Strucker. John Hydra ends up, taking a dive, and the new John Hydra becomes Arnim Zola.
All right. Well, mine's a little more fleshed out. You want me to kind of go through my roster?
Well, and actually, yes. Before you do, I just want to talk a little bit about my experience with Emma. She did not overperform in that game. There was a Mystique there. So Mystique went into Emma hard, and I do think Mystique is a hard counter to Emma, because Emma cannot change forms, and also has a weak physical defense, and Mystique can certainly get up there and just pile on 4 strength attacks that eventually will spike pretty hard.
Yes.
So that part was rough for her. Also, Mystique in general, very popular character, preventing all of my rerolls on her activation. So that also wasn't super stellar. But outside of that, it was dope.
It's funny you bring that up because I was gonna say something very similar when I started talking about her. But the one thing that I will say that how do I word it? So like Emma is deceptively really not that tough. Like I think people overvalue when she gets turned into the big pretty diamond lady that the 4 dice is going to really save you. I don't think it I don't obviously when you rely on that, you're relying on the randomness of dice. Obviously, you can either do great or you could do poorly, but you could do that with 2 dice because if you got 2 crits, you'd have, you could possibly get 4 successes,
That's
right?
true.
So it's kind of like when she turns diamond, she does not get the rhino type damage reduction. She does not get the she doesn't have the ability of like a Thanos damage reduction. She doesn't have any of that stuff, which proves that like having a good dice defense is awesome, but ultimately when you get shot at by a Mystique who makes you roll 4 times, she's as likely to spike as you are, and if
She's
she
more
spikes when
likely
you
to
don't,
spike
you're
than
dead.
you are. Yeah.
And especially if they have a list that's designed to make give them rerolls and stuff like with the Nate GG's old like reroll list, right?
I love that
So,
list, by the way. I just adore it.
yeah, because it's solid stuff, right?
Yep.
That's why you love Daredevil's leadership. It's great.
It is. It's like a good X-Force leadership.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Okay. Would you like me to go over mine?
I would.
All right, so mine is been tested 3 times. I've lost every game. That's how good at this game I am. All right, so I have Emma Frost, I have Lizard, I have Toad, I have Logan the Wolverine, I have Domino, I have Rhino, I have Valkyrie, I have Elektra, I have Mr. Sinister, and I have Killmonger. The tactics cards are obviously my Hellfire Club. This is a robbery. Indomitable and Sacrifice as my 2 restricted. No matter the cost, exceptional healing, eyes on the prize, escort to safety, fall back, and usurp the throne. And we can talk about the secures and extracts in a second. But the overall thinking of this is that I think it's a good mid ground between an attrition and a control team.
Yeah.
The obvious weirdness of it is that I had never played with Sinister before, but I had done the model for the Worthy, so I have a really cool Sinister model. So I was like, I really want to try her out. Everybody's been saying that you barely ever see Sinister in the game when you go out into the competitive events. I'm like, he must be bad, right? I gotta say, actually surprised at how much I like him.
Yeah.
I think you have to play him in an affiliation that helps him with power generation, because otherwise you're not going to have enough power for the beam, and you're not going to have enough power to do his superpowers. The thing that's interesting about Mr. Sinister is that he has a bomb set of superpowers.
Yeah, he does.
But he does not have a way to get enough power to use them very well, because you have to pay for the beam. I think if you didn't have to pay for his beam to get the extract his little genetic tokens, I honestly think he'd be like a contender for like a really, really, really good 4 threat.
I don't disagree with that at all. And actually, I really like him in Red Skull Cabal as well, because that beam ends up getting a power for each one of the targets hit or even attacked, and gives him access to a couple other tools and rerolls and skill sets as well. But I am a big fan of Sinister. I would also love to see another Sinister that's Bar London Sinister or a Bar Sinister.
Yeah, that would be amazing. That would be really cool. Again, just to kind of sum it up, I think his biggest weakness is that the only way he can generate power is by getting punched in the face and by his strike. And his strike is, the only interesting bit of it is that it's energy and that it's range 3.
And it's range 3, yeah.
So it's okay, but I'm just like, man, he's like one of those weird characters. He's just like sitting on the precipice of like being great.
And that's the thing. You can put him in some wonky stuff, especially at like higher threat games. I played him in some Spider Foes rosters, where he was forcefully triggering. He was forcefully having his opponent trigger traps on things with such fun little playthings. So forcing that, and then having like say Cassandra Nova and Green Goblin and Rocket Raccoon all performing their triggers off of a single superpower. Granted, once again, if enough power is out there, also the Spider Foe's reroll, usually helping his strike get a little bit more power. Um, was actually really fun and really abusive. I felt like a huge dirtbag playing it, but I'll tell you, it was fun as heck to do.
Yeah, you see, that's the dream, you know,
Right?
and that all kind of works. Also, for some reason, I know I put cloning banks in here. I don't know why it's not in here, but obviously Toad is a fantastic cloning banks target, just because it's a lot easier to get him out as a 2-threat, and Toad is just great. You'll probably lose priority, which kind of stinks, but I think the other direction that I might go with the team is you could always go like high healing factor, which I think might really work with him. For some reason, I always thought Mr. Sinister had healing factor, just because of like the way he is in the comics and all that.
Yeah.
He in fact does not, but he does have his genetic tokens tank thing, which is pretty rad. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Rad as heck, I think is how you say it.
It is. Those are the words I say. Yeah.
And I think the other sneak included in here is definitely Electra. I think some of the interesting objective play you can play with extracts, because you can send him up and be like, obviously depending on the layout, you could always send the ninjas out and be like, go get the thing, you big doofuses, and they pick up the hammer and then they vanish and give it to whoever. So if you really wanted to do some of the janky like turn one play, you could always like grab something and like vanish it and give it to like a Malekith or whatever, so you can get ferocity off or blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Because you can hand it off, and then immediately at the end of the turn, he's holding the token for you to give him the power. Which is interesting, because I think Hellfire opens up a lot of that kind of play.
I actually really like Electra. I kind of plan on using her more, and she might find her way into that reroll roster just with the hand edges. Being able to pass off hammers, I think, is really strong. In addition to the fact that she's Criminal Syndicate, and the other affiliation I want to be able to go with MODOK Scientist Supreme is Criminal Syndicate. And I think she fits a little bit more narratively than some of the other characters in Criminal Syndicate that I might want to include.
Sure. And I mean, it's a well-known thing that I love Elektra, right? She's like probably one of my favorite characters in comics. So I was super ecstatic to just be able to put her in a roster and not feel bad about it. So I was very happy to hear about it. I was very happy to do it. And to give you advice, if you want to use Elektra, make sure you use Impale as many times as humanly possible, because it's real good if you poke someone in the brain with a hot piece of metal.
It really is, yeah. Especially at 10 damage or 10 dice when you're within that range one potentially, and they don't add crits. You don't even need to be Squirrel Girl to do that. And then you get a free movement afterwards, regardless of if damage is done and not on a trigger. Just happens.
Yeah. Because if you poke somebody real hard with that character is not going to their next hootenanny.
That's true, which is unfortunate. The 3x3 tournament that's going to be at Ironweld seems like it's going to be really fun. Still have no idea how I'm going to stream 3 games at once on a team, but we'll figure it out.
Just do it. Just be better. Okay. And then, other than that, I think the rest of it's pretty self-explanatory. Exceptional healing. I think a lot of people forget you can use that on Lizard because he has healing factor.
Yeah.
I think most people usually associate it with Weapon X characters, but there's also a Lizard.
You can use it on Psylocke too after you Crimson Dawn.
Yeah, that's gross. I didn't think of that, but sure. Okay, so let's go over this real quick. My biggest weakness in this game that I have noticed, and I always feel like I'm starting to get better, and then something happens and slaps me down. The secures and extracts. I always feel like my crisis selections are always kind of bad. So, Tim, can you help me?
Yeah, I can do that.
Oh, man. All right, thanks, man. So my secures are Riot Spark over Extremis, Infinity Formula goes missing, and Sword Base on the Moon. And then Struggle for the Cube, Paranoia Pummels, and Fear Grips as worthy terrorized cities. I think the extract game is pretty good. Obviously, the advantage that you have with Struggle for Cubes and Paranoia is that your characters can heal while your opponents may not be able to because you're playing Hellfire. So I think that's awesome. And then who doesn't love hammers, right? You guys
Everyone loves hammers.
Yeah, hammers is awesome.
If hammers isn't in your roster, like, you don't like fun.
Yeah, I know, right? And who wants to play against that kind of them peoples? They're stupid. Okay, anyway. So the secures, honestly, based on what I've played, at least with the characters I've played, that's kind of the interesting with Hellfire is you can literally do whatever you want because you have access to every character in the game. But if you wanted to do a split attrition control team, the D layouts I think are a little too far apart.
Yeah.
Like you got to have a lot of really mobile characters, which you can definitely do, but it definitely like Hellfire is a really good time to just learn how to do basic healthy MCP like tactics because all of a sudden now you can kind of get exposed to anything. So like a D, you got to be able to get across the map because if you're using 2 move actions to just cross the board and not doing anything else, you could probably find yourself in a lot of trouble because now you're using so much action economy. So you're going to want charges. You're going to want hit and runs. You're going to want ferocities. You're going to want gamma leaps. You're going to want all these super fancy things. But I think the other big advantage, and I think Ulick is a fantastic character on D's, is you have to not only be able to move, but you got to be able to dominate a point. You got to be able to push or, just bully somebody off. So like a Hulk is a great example, obviously.
Yeah.
But because there's 4 of these things spread out across the map, your character, you could definitely run into the issue of like if somebody's playing Web Warriors, you could just be like, hey, yo, I'll see you later, nerd. I'm going to go to the other point that you're not on because you have a Hulk and you spend all your threat on this character, right? And that's what Web Warriors sound like. I don't know why they talk like that, but that's what they all sound like.
What would you think? And this, I feel very strongly on this one. Potentially swapping out one of your secures for superpowered scoundrels.
So the only thing I'm scared of with superpowered scoundrels, I do love it because it, really good violence and all that.
And there's 5. You know
as
what I mean?
Soon as you bump into a criminal syndicate player, you're real sad. But yeah. I think that's a good idea, though. I think I will actually replace that with scoundrels. I think that's actually a pretty good point because also and like I think you were alluding to, since there's 5 of them, your characters are almost always going to be healing and getting power off of these things.
Yep. Yeah. So senators as well, the same thing. Just a target-rich environment is kind of what you want because you can go pretty wide for the most part with that list. You have some tall boys in there as well, but picking up things that maybe Ulick can have more than one of. That's why I think hammers is great. And him being able to, like, round 1, pick up a hammer, get an ambush token, it helps keep them alive a little bit. And it doesn't necessarily... So if you do go up against Crime Syndicate, you can still push them off. You have a lot of movement in there with Defense Straight and the trigger off of Emma's Builder. If you're activating characters like that late, it doesn't have to be a Hulk. It can just be a 4-threat Emma Frost that's going to move people all over the place.
Yep. Which definitely, Emma is a fantastic control piece. I really don't. If you're using her for damage, you're probably going to be really sad. But yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think as long as you're using things to move things, I think Scoundrels is awesome. You just have to worry about activation order.
Yep.
You just got to make sure you're moving characters that have already activated. Again, that's classic MCP tactics right there. So just good, healthy learning of the basics there. One thing I will bring up is that I don't know if you could figure it out when I was listing the characters. I didn't bring a single character over a 4-threat.
Yeah.
So my answer to big boys is Killmonger. I think Killmonger, especially in this affiliate or with Emma, could be potentially like devastating because you're going to have the power to hopefully use his spenders and hopefully do the usurp because you're like, oh, look, a Hulk. So you just kind of soften him up for a turn or two, kind of give him little bits and pieces here. And then you just go all in turn 3, probably. Yeah. He runs in. He screams he does the violence dance.
Hopefully
he brings him down.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's some of my thinking. You got any fancy thoughts?
Yeah, I think the superpowered scoundrels is at least the easy one out of the gate for me. I don't know how you feel about Demons Downtown or having effectively the complete polar opposite of superpowered scoundrels, where there's only 3 objectives and it makes people easier to kill instead of harder to kill. But it's just another one of those. I think you had Infinity Formula, you said, right? And cubes?
Yes.
I think those are both great. Once again, more power and more damage, and you're not necessarily, like you kind of said, at a point where, like, if you have some cubes, they're holding an objective, so they're going to heal it. Yep. So it's somewhat of a net break even, net of
Yep.
0 there. Um,
But well, I think honestly, you can't even look at it like as a net like 0. It's a positive because you're getting victory points from the thing,
yeah.
and a victory point is definitely worth a damage, like easily. So if you're not
Yeah.
even taking the damage, I think the value of it just is even better.
So, like, here's the real question, though. How do you and why do you fit in MODOK, Sorcerer, or Scientist Supreme?
Sorcerer Supreme. Why would I?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's because he's super cool. He's If I wanted to play those 2 goofy cards that just came up, I think obviously when you use Emma, I think the name of the game is you have power, they don't, but you're also healing in the same breath.
Yeah.
So if you like characters that are power starved, I think you're gonna love Hellfire Club. The new MODOK, I'm not entirely sure he's like he's like really power starved per se. But Psionic Assault's not bad, don't get me wrong. I don't know. I feel like the other MODOK would be the better option because then you could do bows. You can, just use. I honestly think that 5 probably fits in this roster better.
Yeah, I don't disagree there, actually.
I really like the new MODOK. I just think he's such a great leader. For some reason I have trouble thinking about him in any situation other than just criminal syndicate leader.
Right? Yeah, it's difficult. Yep.
Like he's just so solid.
Now, how about Mind Transfer? I can't remember. Did that make it into your roster or no?
It did not. I've tried to use it twice, and both times I'm not entirely sure my opponent even like processed what it did because it was so new. So I don't think it influenced his decisions at all, and I just don't think the situation comes up.
Yeah.
And in a way, like I don't want to say it really comes up. It doesn't really come up naturally, where you're just like, oh, the perfect time to use this card, you fool, and throw it on the table with a lot of like gusto, and you say, sorry, Jimbo, I got to send you to the Shadow Realm. And so,
well, hey there, Jimbo.
So I think it's a great card, like potentially. I just don't know how to use it. I think it would be better if that was like maybe use that on the demons downtown idea, right? Because now everybody's really close.
Well,
but you're definitely not going to use it on a D.
That middle point on ambush is where I used it against an Angela, where
Sure.
you know what I mean, and you can kind of like, and I think once again, similar to mind games, is you're playing that mental game with people, right? You're playing Emma, you gotta screw with them a little bit. So forcing a character that maybe is a 2, 3, or potentially even a 4 threat to have a bunch of damage on them at the end of the round, so that your opponent is going to want to activate them first. Setting up your mind transfer to go onto a Hulk, to go onto a Malekith, to go onto an Angela is really kind of its best spot. And once again, it takes a little planning, but softening up that Mystique, softening up that Sam Wilson or any other leader really that they really want to keep, but is also somewhat easy for you to put damage on, so that they activate that character first in round 2, so then you can mind transfer it immediately off of them, hit their big tanky boy, and probably do a bunch of damage to the tanky boy, and also still take out the softened up 3-point leader that you've been wailing into.
I just I don't know. I feel like I guess maybe it's just sometimes you got to throw it in your selection and just
I don't think
wait.
I don't think it's a bring every time. I think it's very specifically when there's a very high threat on the other side of the table, and
Sure.
it's a high enough point value. So yeah, it is somewhat niche, but if they're going 3 wide, you're probably not going to use it because they're not going to have characters that are that close together because they're going to be spread out for points. But if it's 20 threat and they have a Malekith and they have 3 other characters or 4 other characters, it does become a really powerful card that can prevent a lot of attrition for your own side.
Well, there you go, guys. What do you think? What do you think of mind transfer? I just got the name of the card there for a second. But I don't know. I kind of want to hear more examples of like what have people managed to do? Like where have they found it useful? Where have they not found it useful?
Well, and while we're getting a lot of these wild cards, especially, I mean, MODOK and Incredible Hulk and Immortal Hulk come out next week, right? Um,
I think so.
so I really am interested to see and hear people's mind game stories, their what is it, imbecile, let me do it or whatever. Um, I'm super excited for those. I'm really interested to hear about people's experiences with the Immortal Hulk card that you like put your token on their ability and
Yeah,
then get power that way.
gamma transfer,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
So super stoked for that. And then next month when we get Squirrel Girl and Gwenpool, also very excited to see how they kind of affect things. Very curious to see what affiliations they end up getting. I think that's the biggest wild card for me for them right now. But but yeah. Well, I think that's going to bring us to an end this week. Dr. D, thank you so much for being here. I truly, genuinely just like spending time with you.
Oh, hey man. If you ever want to sit around talk MCP while sitting on a Twitch making stupid jokes and references that are probably outdated and nobody actually understands anymore, I'll always be there for you, buddy.
Nuts. Shuckle my butters, bud. Um, but as we said at the top of the show, listen, we're running a standard challenger event next week at the art store in Syracuse. Check on Longshanks, sign up for that. It's going to be a blast. I think multiple members of the Fifth Trooper are going to be there. Jay, who has not played a game of MCP, has been like scrambling to get an Avengers roster together to bring it, and is asking for training games so he can know how to play before he goes there. Evan as well, who we got to spend a bunch of time with at Adepticon, will be there, and Otis, Ben, Alyssa, myself, Dan. Like it's going to be a pretty solid turnout. But make sure to sign up for that. That is April 15th at Longshanks. Look for the Art Store qualifier event. Same thing, following month, May 20th, for an event at Bearded Dragon Games. Make sure to sign up for that bad boy. The week after that will be Ironweld, which will be that big 3v3 tournament right outside Boston at the Ironweld convention. Is this the first Ironweld that's going to happen, by the way? Do you know?
I think this is the first Ironweld. I think Everwinter was the first. I think that was the second Everwinter that happened.
And I know Everwinter had been around for a while as a big AOS tournament, and then they've kind of had expanded it out to other games. So those Northeast events are something that we're trying to really help push along because we want more events near us. Because we're selfish boys. But make sure to sign up for all that, and then the Salt City GT. Tickets just went live today for the MCP event. There's 32 total. Get in there, get them. Make sure you get your room in the hotel block. It takes place in the same convention center and everything, right in downtown Syracuse. It's going to be dope. It's going to be fly. Brian Watson is going to be there, helping us run the whole gosh dang thing. It's going to be awesome. I'm incredibly excited for it. In addition to all that,
I'm actually helping run the events at Ironweld.
That's right.
I'll be there for that.
And we'll be streaming all of those events as well. I'm positive that I am going to be able to pull away Dr. D from Brian at some point to get him under the thumb, or to get him out from under the thumb of John PC and Brian Watson, to be able to hop on stream for a little bit. But
what a jerk,
right? But in addition to that, guys, just thank you so much for the Twitch subs, the Prime subs, the bits redemptions, and the sounds, and especially our patrons over at patreon.com/professionalcasual, especially our King Ding Doppeldongers and our professional cake sitters, which include, but are not limited to, Bastion, Rob, and X-Paxis, Dr. D, Dagna, Devil Pup, Leroy, Bicon, Cider Drinker, Otis, Wizard Skills, Iron Maze, Charles, Tisdale, Cider Drinker, Leroy, and I think that's it. I think it is 15, but I think there might be one more out there. I said all the D's. I said the Dr. Dizzles, the Devil Dizzles, and the Mo Dizzles, or the Dagna Dizzles. Oh, Tony Hot Hands!
Yeah, how could you forget him? We were talking
Tony-
about him in the Discord today.
We were talking about Tony Hot Hands. So, yeah, thank you, Tony Hot Hands, as well. Once again, if you want to get 15% off your Shatterpoint core set, that will include all of the extra like store swag, get over to beardeddragongames.online right now. Pre-order it. It is its own special thing. There are only 16. Those are limited quantity things. You can get 15% off it as well if you use code PCN Shatterpoint at checkout. Should be doper McGopers, guys. We're really excited. We're super excited for Shatterpoint. I cannot wait to see how Dooku plays. Like, I am here for it. But
Hey, he's one of the best duelists in all of Star Wars. He's gonna be amazing.
he is. He is. I have every fiber of my being is like Dooku's gonna be awesome. You're only gonna play Dooku, and it's gonna be great. You just will roll poorly all the time, and we'll lose every game. But listen, sometimes that's just how it be. Maybe
Sure
one day
does.
they'll add Sentinel Prime into Shatterpoint, and I can use him to have some rerolls.
Oh my god. Oh my gosh.
But stay tuned here. Dr. D's been writing a bunch of blogs over at the website as well, professionalcasual.com, talking about painting without fear, and then his journey on the worthy and to the worthy of next year is actually going to be something that's going to be super dope to follow throughout the next 12 months as we get ready for Adepticon 2024. Guys, thank you so much. We love you, and we'll see you next week, if not sooner. Bye.
Leave the blood on the bracket. Bye.